Hi students, I've put together a video to show you how to do assignment 1. The first thing you're going to do is open MyStatLab, go to the assignment tab, go to assignment 1. You're going to read the instructions. It says it's essential that you view the video that I'm creating right now. You must submit your assignment as a Microsoft Word document, not a PDF or some other format, and that the assignment is due February 24th at midnight. There are two options for completing the assignment. You can work with a friend and submit it together. You'll get the same grade. Both students put their names on the assignment, and there's a 10-point deduction for this option. You can work independently, in which case all work must reflect your own understanding with the material. You can consult with no one while you're typing or writing up the assignment. Here's the assignment. It's a PDF file. Here's the Excel file you need to do the assignment. And here is the video that you're now watching, and you need to watch the video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the Excel file. We're going to save the file to somewhere on our computer. And then it will probably be in the downloads. And then you can see it in the download folder. And if you want to, you can open it and save it somewhere else. And I would do that. I would open the file and I would save it as the Excel file COVID-19, and I would save it on the desktop where I can retrieve it easily. We can close the file for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to not use that file because it is your assignment. So suppose I've opened a file. My file is called Mass Data. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the main menu. I'm going to open StatCrunch. I'm going to go to the StatCrunch website and open StatCrunch. Now I need to go to data, load data from a file on my computer. You'll be opening the COVID-19 file. I'm going to be opening another file. I'm going to be opening the mass data file. So one of the ways you can do that is you can locate the file on your computer, and my file is called Mass Data. So now that I've saved my file, I am going to locate it on the desktop. I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to locate my mass data file, and I can either click on it or I can simply drag it here. And then I'm going to upload it. And there's the file. It consists of school districts in the Boston area, whether they are a city or town, what city or town it is, the per capita income, the median income, the median family income, the population, and so forth. It also has information on SAT scores. What I'm going to illustrate in this demo is I'm going to illustrate the connection between SAT math scores and whether the community is a city or a town, and I'm going to show you how to draw a box plot. We're going to go under Graph and we're going to pick Box Plot. The variable we're analyzing is the SAT math scores. So I'm going to pick that column. And we're going to group it by the community. It was a community, a city, or a town. We're going to leave fences to identify outliers checked off. We're going to check off mean and median. And we're going to slide down here and we're going to compute. So here we have the box plot for both city and town. You'll notice that the city has one outlier, one high outlier, and the towns have two high outliers. You'll also notice that the position of the city box plot is lower than the position of the town box plot, which indicates basically that typically the cities have lower SAT math scores than the towns. If I want to get all of the statistics, I can hover over the box plot. For the cities, there were 52. There was one outlier. We have the value of the IQR, the upper limit, the Q3 value, the median, the Q1, and the lower limit. The only thing we don't have is the mean. If we hover on the green bar, we see the value of the mean, 489.2-ish. And the same thing for the towns. If we hover over the box, we have all of the important values except the mean. And if we hover over the green bar, we can find the mean. The other cool thing is if we put a little box around this outlier, one row is going to turn red. So we're in the city category, and what turned red was Newton. Newton is a city. And if we slide this box over, we can see that the SAT math score of Newton was 619. So for a city, that is considered very high math SAT score. If we want to clear that and hover over the towns where we have two outliers and try to identify what those two outliers are, one is Lexington. If we move this sideways, Lexington has an SAT math score of 656. And if we go up a little further, we find that the other community is Acton-Boxborough with a math SAT score of 649. Now, what I would do if I was doing this assignment is I would jot all of those numbers down on a piece of scrap paper. All of the summary stats for the city, including the mean and the outlier, all of the summary stats for the towns and the mean and the outliers. And we're going to close this. So now I'm going to move to a document I've created for the demo. One of the things they're going to ask you in your assignment is to copy and paste the box plot. So there I have it. I've copied and pasted the box plot. Where do I get the numbers for the IQR, the upper limit, the third quartile, the median, the first quartile, the lower limit, and the mean? Well, I get them from the hovering over the box plots for the towns and the cities. Where do I get the values of the outliers? I got them from putting a little pink box around them. Students have asked, what is the meaning of the upper limit and lower limit? The upper limit is the largest value that is not an outlier. The largest value that is not an outlier. The lowest value that is not an outlier is the lower limit. The lowest value that is not an outlier is the lower limit. It is not the value of the fence. The fence you have to calculate. So part 2 will ask you to consolidate all of those summary statistics, to record accurate to 2 decimal places the mean, the median, the quartiles, and the IQR. The third part will ask you to compare the means and make a decision about which group, the cities or towns, had a higher math SAT score. When we look at the comparison of the means, we conclude that because 536 is bigger than 489, that on average towns had a higher mean SAT score than cities. Comparison of the medians, again, the towns had a higher median SAT score than the cities. Then they're going to talk about variability. Which group was more variable? For the variability, we're going to compare the IQRs. The IQR, the width of the box, the difference between Q3 and Q1, is higher for the towns than it is for the cities. So based on the IQRs, the towns are more variable than the cities. The next part of the assignment is going to ask you to discuss the outliers. There are no low outliers. The towns had 2 high outliers, Acton-Boxborough and Lexington. You're going to mention what the mean SAT scores were. You can comment that that means that they are certainly in the top 25%, and that they are both above the upper fence, which will be calculated in the next portion of the assignment. You can make a similar comment for the outliers for cities, that there was only one, it was Newton, with the mean SAT score, that it is certainly in the top 25%, and that it is above the upper fence. The next part of the assignment asks you to talk about skewness. So you're going to look at a comparison of the mean and the median. If the mean is less than the median, it is skewed to the left, and that is true for cities. If the mean is greater than the median, it's skewed to the right, and that is true for the towns. The second to last problem is going to ask you to actually compute the upper and lower fences. The lower fence is Q1 minus 1.5 the interquartile range. The upper fence is Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. You can get all of those from the second part of the problem, of the assignment. You must show your calculations. So what does this all mean? To be a low outlier as a town, you'd have to be below an SAT below 432, and there were none. To be a low outlier for a city, the mean SAT would have to be lower than 392, and there were no cities in that category. For towns, you would have to be above 632 in order to be a high outlier. And there are actually 2 towns that were above 632. They were Acton-Boxborough and Lexington. For a city, you would have to be above 580.5. And there was one city that was above 580.5, and that was Newton, that came in at 619. So for your assignment, the format that I've given you here is, aside from all of this kind of scrap work that I've done before part 2. This is something I'd write on a piece of paper to help guide me through the assignment. Aside from all of that scrap work, you're going to present your box plot. You're going to give me the summary stat in a nice table. You're going to have a one-sentence comment on a comparison of the means and the medians, a one-sentence comparison of the IQRs as it relates to variability. You're going to have a sentence or two for each of the high outliers in the towns and the cities. You're going to have a comment about means and medians and their comparison and what it means in terms of skewness. You're going to show me your calculations for the upper and lower fences, and there will be a question about what value do you have to exceed to be a high or low outlier. I hope this helps, and send me an email if there are any questions.